Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to use this matter of the day as an opportunity for members to express sympathy and support for King Charles III, who has recently been diagnosed with cancer. I would also wish to draw attention to the fact, Mr. Speaker, that I wish to reserve my maiden speech at this time, given the nature of this matter of the day. Indeed, I would also like to extend condolences to the family of the former Taoiseach, John Bruton, from the Alliance Party. Mr. Speaker, the King didn't have to share his diagnosis of cancer, but he did so to raise awareness of the issue, and indeed with full heart and public spirit. As well as members having an opportunity to express well wishes and support at this time, I do think it is important for us to do exactly what the King has said and to assist public understanding of cancer. Over 10,000 people in Northern Ireland are diagnosed each year, and projected figures show that 1 in 2 of us will get cancer. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your comments at the start of this sitting. I know this is something you have battled with personally, as have many other members sitting in this chamber today. All of us have been directly or indirectly impacted by cancer. And indeed, it was only on Saturday past in this House, Mr. Speaker, that this issue was raised by both the First and Deputy First Ministers. And that gives me hope that this issue is seen as both an urgent one and a priority. We know that while great progress has been made, Northern Ireland lags behind to comparable countries in terms of survivability. We also know that the King revealed that it was only by accident that the cancer itself was found. I can immediately think of 3 people in my own constituency of Lagan Valley who were diagnosed last year in ED, and sadly 2 out of the 3 are dead. Time is of the essence, Mr. Speaker, in battling this disease. I think of people like Christine Campbell with late-stage ovarian cancer, who is using her platform selflessly to advocate for cancer care and survivors. I also think of Emer Smith, Ozzy Rogers, Adam Watson and Adam's Army, Poppy Ogle, and many, many other young people, and indeed people right across family members belonging to this House. So while we take this opportunity to rightly offer support to the King in his fight ahead and wish him strength and recovery, it is also vital that we listen to the other part of his message, for it is us in this chamber that the people of Northern Ireland have charged to address this, to make better, to get right for them and their families. And I know and trust, Mr. Speaker, that we will all push forward in making that happen. And I know that we all have the support of the whole House today in wishing His Majesty the King well, and indeed all families in the last 24 hours that have indeed also received that cancer diagnosis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, there is palpable shock and empathy across our nation at the news that His Majesty the King has fallen victim to this pervasive and dreadful disease of cancer. And of course, it's a reminder to us that cancer is no respecter of persons. And therefore, our first and primary thoughts, undoubtedly, are with the King himself and with the Queen and his immediate family, who have to all shoulder the burden. And of course, it, as has already been said, is something that has touched so many families, yourself included, Mr. Speaker, and indeed the last speaker in this debate. And therefore it creates a common feeling amongst so many. I think that as you have properly conveyed to the King the best wishes and thoughts and prayers of this Assembly, we do trust that he will see speedy and effective recovery and be enabled to continue to rule over us. I think it was highly commendable, the transparency with which this matter was dealt with, and I do trust that that will have the effect of people going to seek help who maybe have neglected symptoms, who will now take it upon themselves, as they probably did after his prostrate situation, to ensure that they put their health first and foremost. So I join with as many in this House as convey their thoughts and prayers and support to His Majesty and his family at this time.
I call the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill.
Very much, Can Corlia, and can I thank the member for bringing this issue to the House this morning. Very mindful of her own family situation, and my best wishes to your husband Dale, who I know you've spoken publicly about previously. Can I also just concur and extend my support to the King and wish him the very best and a speedy recovery in terms of his journey. And I think that over the course of the last 12 hours since yesterday evening, when the news became public, certainly the issue has hit home, as others have said, has hit home to so many families, and we're all acutely aware of all those people out there that are going through a cancer journey. There's very little of us out there in society that haven't been touched in some way in our family and our friend circles, and it can be such a devastating time for so many people. And I can only say that I am so glad today that we are here, that we are back at business, and that we have work to do in terms of delivering on our own cancer strategies here. We have a lot of work to do, and certainly I know we're up for that. I'm also mindful of this morning's some of the news headlines around the Children's Hospice, and I know we all will be concerned and all would want to do our very, very best for the hospice service itself, particularly when you're dealing with children going through such a difficult time. And I have spoken to the Health Minister. I know that he and I, and I'm sure the Deputy First Minister, will want to do everything we can to be as supportive as we can of the hospice, and I've communicated that to them this morning. And then just finally, Can Corlia, I want to also pass on my condolences to the family of former Taoiseach John Bruton, who we've just been notified has sadly passed away. And again, to his family and friends, we send them our condolences at this very sad time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I join with many in the House here in paying tribute to His Majesty the King in the bravery that he has shown in coming forward to publicly put on record what he is going through at this time. Just 9 months ago to this very day, many millions across the world and in the United Kingdom celebrated the King's coronation. To listen to the news yesterday, to hear of this cancer diagnosis, certainly has been a shock to many in the nation. But I commend the King for his bravery in coming forward to highlight certainly the issue that has affected so many homes across Northern Ireland and across the world, that of cancer. And I listened yesterday on the news, and I was particularly touched at how, following the King's prostate operation, he was touched particularly by the uptake that there had been in those that had been contacting the NHS helpline. I think it was up 1,000%, as they talked about issues that had been affecting so many of them, and sometimes as a taboo subject. But the King came forward and has put it front and centre what he, alongside many others, are facing today. As he begins his treatment, I want to put on record the thoughts and prayers of the Democratic Unionist Party, and indeed all of those constituents that we represent. We are proud to have a King that's commitment to his duty is unwavering, and the very fact that just yesterday he announced, whilst his treatment starts, that he will continue in his state duties, just shows a testimony to the type of leader that this nation has. So I join with us all in wishing His Majesty the King well and a speedy recovery, and our thoughts again with his family and all of those families across this nation that suffer from cancer this day. And we pray and thank the Lord for the continual advancements that there is in cancer diagnoses right across the spectrum, and we wish them all well as they continue to battle that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cancer is a terrible disease. It respects nobody, young or old, and I don't think there's anybody sitting in this chamber now that hasn't been affected directly or indirectly through cancer. And I'm minded of Dale as well, and my best wishes to Dale. And even within my own party, there are members who have had to battle through cancer. It is so invasive. It really is a disgusting disease. But we have made huge advancements going forward. And I'm also minded that right across these islands, many families are dealing with cancer at this moment in time. The Ulster Unionist Party's best wishes go to the King Of course they do, and they go to his family, who will have to deal with this for the long term. And we hope that he has a speedy recovery, and we thank him for being open with the diagnosis that he's received, because that conversation it cannot be hidden. It needs to be had more and more now than it has previously. So our best wishes go to him. And I will finish, if I can, but just passing on my condolences to the family and friends of John Bruton at his passing. Another terrible shock. The one thankful thing that I feel as I'm here today is we're now in a position to start to help those people who are being dealt this terrible affliction going forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I first of all commend the member for Lagan Valley for bringing this motion, or this matter of the day, to us. Obviously, she has spoken with immense emotion of the cancer experience she and her husband are going through at the minute, and she is an example, like the King, of people being open about their experiences with cancer, which, as has already been said, will very soon affect 50% of us. Our condolences also go to the family of Taoiseach John Bruton, whose sad passing we learned about today, and we may have an opportunity to debate his legacy on another occasion. Mr. Speaker, the King has done something very brave today, which is use the office, the role that he holds, not simply to, as it were, make this a private matter, but to do something that takes courage at a very difficult time for him and his family, which is to talk about his cancer experience. It's also been said that an increasing number of people, because of the problems in health services, true in England, but even more true here in Northern Ireland, the number of people who are receiving their cancer diagnosis on an incidental basis. That is deeply troubling and deeply worrying. It is a good thing that we are back in this chamber and able to do something about it. It's a good thing that there is now a health minister appointed here who can start to do the work of dealing with the issues in our health service, which will hopefully improve cancer outcomes. But once again, let me express my thoughts with the family of the King. It is true to say that there are basically very few rules in the world that are more public than that of a monarch, but I would pay tribute to him using his office to bring not just awareness, but also to encourage discussion and openness about this very, very difficult situation. So thank you very much, and our thoughts go to the King and the rest of the royal family as they deal with what is an intensely private moment, but thank you to them for also talking about it with candour and honesty.
I call Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to add my thanks for the member of bringing forward this morning, because I do think it's incredibly important that actually across this House that we put formally our concerns and best wishes to His Majesty the King. We all know that it's not just the person who is going through that journey themselves, as difficult as that is, and we absolutely wish His Majesty the King all the very best for his treatment and for his recovery. But we also know the huge pressure put on the family and friends of those who are suffering, and I'm sure very, very many people across this House today have gone through that, or at least know many people either that have gone through that or are currently going through that very challenging journey. And I am glad that at our executive meeting yesterday, we did take the opportunity, as I think it was important to do so, as one of our first items of business for discussion, to raise the issue of the waiting lists for cancer. Waiting lists across all kinds of different issues, of course, but in particular we raised the issue of the waiting lists for cancer, because they are quite simply unacceptable, and it's a very, very good indication of the type of issue that we do need to collectively work together to try to resolve. And I am confident that there is that collective will, just as there is in this House today, to send our best wishes to the King. There is that collective will to work together constructively to find those solutions that we know that so many families and individuals need. And I just want to add to that I know many people in this House, but also beyond this, will be deeply concerned to hear the news today about the hospice. And I know we will be raising that and hopefully finding a resolution for that. But it is a very good example as well. This is not just the persons, not just the family and friends, but we rely hugely on the incredible work of so many people within our health system, in the hospices and beyond that. Those people who care and support people going through what is often the very worst time of their lives. And I think we should put on record the thanks. I know that the King will receive excellent care, I have no doubt, as does many of those going through the similar journey right throughout Northern Ireland. I also want to extend my condolences to the family and friends of the past Taoiseach, John Bruton, this morning as well.
Mr Speaker, and thank you to my colleague Saoirse Eastwood for her very brave and open way of dealing with her family and particularly her husband Dale's diagnosis of cancer. I want to add my best wishes to those of the House, to His Majesty the King and to the royal family as they face this particularly difficult time. I know only too personally, as a survivor of one of the 8 least survivable cancers in the world, esophageal cancer, what it is to face that diagnosis personally, to have to share it with family and friends, and then to stand up and to let people know, because I had a small insight into public life, and to share my story without knowing what the end of it was going to be, with Mark Devonport and the BBC, and then subsequently with the Belfast Telegraph. That was 4 years ago now. Esophageal cancer is one of the most least survivable cancers. It must be caught early. It is vital that our health service is ready and willing and able to support patients like myself and others who have those particular cancers. I want to place specifically on record my thanks to the Cancer Centre at the Belfast City Hospital, to the nurse specialists who looked after me, to my oncologist and to my surgeon, all of whom did an amazing job for me and for the many patients like me who face the diagnosis of esophageal cancer. So, Mr Speaker, I have immense admiration for His Majesty the King and the way in which he has publicly come forward at this very early stage to let people be aware of what is happening to him and the difficulties that his family will face. And finally, Mr Speaker, I also want to place on record my particular sympathies to the family of John Bruton, former Taoiseach, who died sadly this morning. And as others have said, I'm sure we will have an opportunity to pay tribute to him. I know my memories go back as far as the Forum for Peace and Reconciliation, when he was very actively involved in the very early stages of our peace process. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Dixon, and could I thank all of the members who have spoken and for the dignified way in which this has been conducted. And could I add my sympathies to the Bruton family? I only became aware of that on entering the chair. I will be writing to the Bruton family. John Bruton was a fine man, a man of integrity, and a very decent man, and he was a fine Taoiseach, and I will be writing to his family on that issue.